Chapter 3: The Sacred Scrolls of Remembrance. The great archives carried a quiet sense of importance felt by all who entered. Deep within its rarely visited chambers were the sacred scrolls of remembrance, a collection of immense power and significance. These were not ordinary historical records of empires or kings, but texts exploring the essence of the divine. Each scroll, bound in aged hide and marked with glowing symbols, was dedicated to a deity of Eldoria's pantheon. Inside the fragile pages, generations of archivists recorded the names, lineages, and major deeds of every god and goddess who influenced the mortal realm. From Eridor, lord of the harvest, to Maris, mistress of the seas, and many others, their stories were preserved. These scrolls were believed to channel divine essence, linking the gods to the mortal world. Seen as the lifeblood of the pantheon, they held a subtle magic that allowed the deities to bless, guide, and maintain balance in creation. The keepers of the archives understood the importance of the scrolls, and access to them was strictly limited. Only a sworn order of archivists guarded and preserved the sacred scrolls of remembrance. Their role was not just to protect the texts from decay, but to safeguard the link between the divine and the mortal world. They carried out their duties with strict discipline, following ancient customs meant to honor and protect the power within the scrolls. Elara, guided by a feeling she couldn't explain, ventured deeper into the archives than usual. She had heard quiet rumors about the scrolls and their unusual nature. Standing before a shelf she sensed was central to the collection, she felt a faint vibration in the air and within herself. A subtle hum seemed to rise from the scrolls, suggesting the divine power they held. The charged atmosphere both excited and unsettled her, reminding her of a force far greater than anything she had known. The scrolls varied in age and condition. Some were so old that their bindings crumbled and their pages were brittle, while others remained well preserved, with clear ink and sharp symbols. Each scroll was marked with runes identifying the deity it represented. Some honored the widely worshipped great gods, while others were devoted to lesser spirits known only to a few. Even these minor deities, Elara sensed, played an important role in the larger order of existence. One scroll bound in polished stone caught her attention. It felt cool at first, then slightly warm beneath her touch. The title, written in nearly unreadable script, seemed to refer to a forgotten underworld deity linked to decay and renewal. The idea of such a being unsettled her. She pictured the scribes who had carefully recorded its name and deeds, preserving a power few chose to acknowledge. Nearby, a scroll that seemed to shimmer softly drew her gaze. It gave off a faint glow, suggesting it was dedicated to a celestial deity, perhaps of dreams or the stars. The subtle hum around it felt lighter and more delicate. It reminded her that the divine extended beyond the earth and was woven into the wider universe. As Elara walked among the shelves, she sensed differences in the energy around the scrolls. Some gave off a steady presence, while others felt tense and unpredictable. She realized these qualities reflected the nature of the deities they represented, their temperaments and powers. A war god might feel sharp and intense, while a love goddess might seem warm and calm. The scrolls were not just records, but expressions of each deity's distinct presence. She stopped before a large scroll bound in dark brown and decorated with leaf patterns. It gave off a steady, grounded strength, and she knew it belonged to Eridor, the Harvest Lord. Yet beneath its strength was a hint of sadness, reflecting the failing crops and rising worry across the land. The scroll seemed to mirror the weakening bond between the deity and the mortal world. The weight of her family's legacy, once a distant idea, now felt urgent. She had always known her lineage was tied to the divine, but seeing the sacred scrolls made that connection real. Her ancestors had likely helped create and preserve these texts, dedicating their faith to them. If the scrolls truly carried divine power, and that power was fading, then the threat was not abstract. It endangered Eldoria itself and her own place within it. Her hand trembled as she touched Eridor's scroll. The hum grew stronger, and for a moment she felt a surge of energy, an impression of life, growth, and abundance. Just as quickly, it faded, leaving a hollow trace behind. The brief connection reminded her how fragile the bond between the divine and mortal world had become. The archivists were more than caretakers. They served like priests of an old order, preserving the scrolls through strict rituals. They spoke of the great weaving, the bond of belief and divine power that sustained existence. The sacred scrolls of remembrance were seen as its anchors, holding the divine threads in place. To weaken them, they believed, would threaten the stability of reality itself. Elara looked toward a shadowed corner where darker, older scrolls were kept. Their markings were hard to read, and she guessed they belonged to deities long forgotten. Though faint, a trace of energy still lingered in them. If even these lost gods still endured in some form, she wondered what it meant that the greater deities were beginning to weaken, and what power could truly erase a god. She began to grasp the scale and subtlety of the threat facing Eldoria. This was not a war of weapons, but one fought through memory and belief, a gradual weakening of the divine. The sacred scrolls of remembrance were both a source of power and the center of this struggle. If they were altered or erased, the consequences would affect all mortal life. The air in the archives felt heavier as she realized the seriousness of what was at stake. The faint hum within the sacred archives, once inspiring, now filled Elara with unease. It seemed like the fragile sound of divinity holding on to the mortal world. She had felt its presence and understood the importance of the sacred scrolls of remembrance. Yet the knowledge she gained there was about to be overshadowed by a shocking event, one that would destroy any sense of safety and reveal the true danger threatening their world. It started with a small flicker in her vision and a brief warmth in the cool chambers of the archives. As she studied the runes on a scroll devoted to an ancient earth deity, she noticed a sharp, unusual scent mixed with the smell of old parchment. A quiet murmur spread through the halls, breaking the usual silence and drawing the elder archivists from their work. A sudden shout broke the silence. "Fire! By the ancients, fire!" The cry echoed through the archives, filled with panic. Elara looked up, her heart racing. Fire in the heart of the archives, where every precaution was taken against it, seemed impossible. She moved with the others, driven by instinct. Archivists rushed past her, pale and alarmed, carrying water and blankets as they hurried toward a distant wing. It held the oldest records, the earliest divine pacts and the origins of Eldoria's pantheon. Realizing this, Elara felt a chill. The fire had reached one of the most important parts of the archives. When she turned the corner, she saw a section of the hall in flames. The fire was unlike anything she had seen, burning fiercely with a strange green tint. It tore through the wooden shelves, consuming scrolls and books rapidly. The heat was so strong that it forced the archivists to keep their distance as they struggled to contain it. The air seemed charged with a dark energy that fed the flames. Water turned to steam before reaching the center of the fire, and blankets meant to smother it were quickly consumed. The blaze spread unnaturally fast, jumping from shelf to shelf and destroying centuries of knowledge within moments. It felt less like an accident and more like a force determined to erase the past.